Well, it's my time-honored tradition here on the channel to, after beating every Fire Emblem game, make a top 10 list video on my favorite characters, but that doesn't really apply for Fire Emblem 3. You see, Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem is kind of a direct follow-up to the original game, and as such it has a lot of the same characters. In fact, in terms of new characters, I don't even think there are 10. And, you know, I already made a list on my favorite characters from the original game, even if I think it aged terribly. Like, what was I thinking for this list? I put Merrick way lower on the list than I wanted to, saying it's because he died during the Let's Play, but I mean, he died in the last chapter of the game. I mean, Merrick is definitely top 3 material for me, and maybe even better than Marth. I don't know why I put Marth at number 1. I also made the weird mistake of including non-playable characters. Anyway, I'm not super happy with that list, but that's not important. I'll cover my real top 10 at some point in the future. In the meantime, I wanted to focus on the new characters this game added, because I do think they're pretty great, and you know what? There's enough to cover at least a top 5 list, so while this will be a bit shorter, I think it'll be nice all the same. So anyway, without further ado, this is my top 5 new characters in Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem Book 2. That's a bit of a mouthful of a title, but there you go.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
Starting off the list, we have Sheena, the Armor Knight Princess of Gra. You might say, what are you talking about? You barely used her. I mean, Armor Knights aren't even that good in this game. You're right, but I guess I just like her design and her character, how she's kind of the shining beacon of hope for Gra after, well, the last game just had Gra as kind of the generic villains. Okay, if I'm being honest, I just needed something to fill a number 5 spot because most other options died. Roderick died, unfortunately. He probably would have been here just for the design alone. Warren died, and he had a lot of potential since he can class up in this game.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
But that's okay, because moving on the list we have number 4, Marisha. Speaking of changes I would make to my original list, in Mystery of the Emblem there's a massive difference between that game and the original, and that's that healers now get experience for healing, which is so much better. It means they actually get level ups and you can class them up and do attacks with them and everything, which is just awesome. Lena would 100% be in my top 10 list for the original game if she actually got any XP. But now in Book 2, we have a brand new healer, and while she's not the only one, she is my favorite. Coming in very early in the prologue chapter, as a matter of fact. I don't have too much to say about her other than that. I mean, she heals, she's useful. That's about it.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
Next up on the list we have Fina. Okay, we gotta talk about the dancer class in this game. The original Fire Emblem and Fire Emblem Gaiden never had a dancer class, so there was no way for your units to go again. But this game brings in 2 methods, both the dancer Fina here, as well as the again staff, which makes everybody go again. So if you combine both Fina with the again staff, you can get units to move like 4 times in a single turn. In fact, I used this in the very last chapter. But I mean, she's fun to use anyway. I like using what I call the slingshot technique, where I have a unit move just into her range, and then I have her move out to them and make them go again. Just having a dancer there able to really expand your movement is so nice. It's a luxury that I wouldn't play a Fire Emblem game without. Except I kinda can't do that in the original, or Gaiden, or the remakes of the original, or Gaiden, or some other games now I think about it, but anyway.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
At number 2 on the list we have Cecil. So this game gives you a whole bunch of brand new recruits at the very start, and they all have potential to grow and become great units, but none quite as much as Cecil in my opinion. Cecil started out higher level than them, but honestly, I kinda needed it that way. Luke and Roderick were so weak at the start that it was hard to get them XP, and even after classing Roderick up, he wasn't quite on the level I needed him to be at, whereas Cecil was a powerhouse throughout the whole game, and the Lady Sword also really helped in that regard. Speaking of Lady Sword, you know, I've realized everyone on the list so far has been female. It's kind of a crazy coincidence. But regardless, it's time for the number 1 spot.
Straighten up and fly right. Straighten up and fly right.
This one I have to give a bit of a mulligan for. At number 1 we have Sirius. Now I know what you're thinking. Sirius, also known as Kamu, also known as Zeke, has already been on my previous 2 lists, and not nearly as high as I would normally put him. You know, in truth, my opinions change, my views change, and, well, let me just make this very clear right now. Kamu is my favorite character in Fire Emblem. I wouldn't have him on my list in the original game because he's not playable. For me, there's no holding it back now since he's completely playable in the role of Sirius, he's got an awesome new mask, and he's one of the strongest units in the game by far. The only other character who would contest him in a Fire Emblem game we've played so far would maybe be Alm. It's a close race between those 2. There's so many things I love about Sirius in this game. The mystery of who he is, the fact that Hardin's using his old spear, and well, we actually managed to get revenge on Hard in that way when Sirius killed him. the dilemma he faces between his two lives, one in Kenya and one in Valentia. And my god, I just love his design. There's a reason this guy is on my channel banner. But yeah, I'm happy I got to lay the groundwork for that since we're kind of done with this saga now, and I just wanted to establish that, yeah, Sirius, he's my guy. I do still want to talk about these games some more. I mean, there are remakes, I might do streams of those at some point. There also is a video I want to do on George at one point that I've talked about a lot. I'll get to that at some point. But in the meantime, that's all for today's video. I know this was a bit shorter, but yeah, it's a top 5 list. What are you going to do? Like I've said before, Fire Emblem 4 probably won't be coming for the remainder of the year because there are a couple of other RPGs I want to get to outside of Final Fantasy and Fire Emblem. Mainly Mother 3, Chrono Trigger, and Super Mario RPG. But Fire Emblem is bound to return at some point, and I have been thinking about doing more streams of Fire Emblem, specifically trying to do like a randomizer. But that's a conversation for another day. In the meantime, thanks again so much for watching, and have yourself a very good day.